This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
Doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down, Michael for three. Yeah! Yes! She is gone!
I can't believe what I just saw.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans, to the Team of Rivals podcast, proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network, where you can find great podcasts and blog content. It's draft night, Thursday, April 27th, and this week's episode of the Team of Rivals podcast is being filmed in front of a live studio audience. Follow us on social media at Team of Rivals Pod, or find us online at teamofrivalspodcast.com. For those of you who prefer to watch the show, we also post to YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble, so hit the like and subscribe buttons and be sure that notifications are on so that you know anytime we post new content. You know, it was posed on Twitter earlier this evening. The question was asked, is there anything that Pete likes more than being right? And obviously we all know that the answer to that question is no. There's nothing that Pete likes more than being right. And we're going to get into it a little bit later because, as Elliott has so diligently pointed out in the show chat, on, I don't know, about a bi-weekly basis, the hashtag that was predicted before the season started that so blew up our Twitter mentions has proven somewhat prophetic. Getting a little bit of a tear. Anyway, joining me for this week's show, co-founder of the Team of Rivals and number 125 in the 2022 edition of the Top Cards on Twitter, Ron Nuttall, and of course our permanent, occasional guest host. It's 2 weeks in a row, folks. Everybody has to drink because nobody had any money on it. So if you're watching us live, drink. If you're listening to it after the fact, drink. Elliott, you absolutely have to.
Did I hear it?
Well, or you can toke.
It was muffled. Why did you not hold it up? You got to hold it up to the mic. Dude.
I did. It was right next to it.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Fuck. Here we go. Can't do it. Can't do anything right. None of us.
No.
That's right. We said we were going to start at 8:30. It's 8:48.
Wait a minute. Wait. Elliott and I were ready at 8:30.
Okay, so let's get into it. Here's what I'll explain it. So the boy had baseball practice tonight. And when they went to practice, they made all the kids take off their little Garmin smartwatches or whatever it was that they had on. So he throws it down by his shoes. He goes out. He has literally the best practice I've ever seen him play. He's quitting at the end of the year, by the way. But he has the best practice that he's ever had. We get in the car. He's in a good mood. We drive back here. I'm setting everything up so that I can drop him off at his mom's and then come just waltz right back in here and be ready for the show. He sits down on the couch and he says, "Oh no, I think I forgot my watch at the ball field."
Oh no. What kind of watch was it? Is it a nice iWatch?
Where'd you
Apple
put
watch?
your watch? I put it down by my shoes. All right. So I pull up the Garmin app and I look. Yep. Watch is still there at the ball field. So I take him to his mom's. I drop him off. I run to the ball field. And of course, in the 15 minutes or 10 minutes that it took for me to get from here to his mom's to the ball field, Coach picked it up. So my trip over there was in vain. I rolled up just in time. Our audience arrived, so I had to let them into the building.
Studio.
And here we are, starting late. cool story. Bro.
Wait a minute.
And then I found $5.
That's not why Ron wasn't saying anything.
I was listening to the crunching. It was so spectacular. What are you chewing on?
Oh, you like that?
What are you chewing
Elliott
on?
is the most professional podcast host in the galaxy.
God, I didn't think that would actually come through. It's an M&M. It's an M&M. How did that crunch come through?
What kind?
I can't wait for you to go and listen to this show again.
What kind?
It's just
peanut.
It's just a regular. No, just regular tiny.
There is no way that much crunching was required for a regular M&M. Yeah, regular.
Are you sure you're not eating corn nuts?
No, I do not have corn nuts.
Bloomington beer nuts.
No,
there's no way.
Mix, Gardettos.
I don't have any of that around me.
How many
How
bites?
thin are your cheeks, dude?
No shit. How many bites does an M&M take? I think 3 tops. Elliott bit that M&M at least 16 times. We can rewind that and play it. That was amazing.
Oh, don't worry. I've already marked the tape. We've got another Elliott drop.
Nice. Hey,
was it one M&M or is it a bunch? Because I might
it's gold.
Elliott, I might be being unfair. Was it one M&M or was it like a bunch?
No, it was one.
Not gonna knock the ball off the cover.
Yeah.
I finally topped the crack 50.
Pretty much Ian Happ has the job. And if he
we don't have to listen to the whole thing. Let's go.
I know that's Hall of Fame content from Elliott.
Yep. All right, Pete, go right into it. What do we want to start with, though? What do we want to start with, though? Because tonight's the big night, like the things that are happening. Do we want to start there, or do you want to start with baseball? I'm fine either way. I don't care.
With baseball. It's a baseball podcast. We might as well get it out of the way. I can revel in the glory of the fact that, look, Elliott, you got to feel good after this past week. I mean, yeah, we dropped 3 out of 4 to the Dodgers, but if you look at the totality of the season series, to go 3-7 against a team that's expected to be a World Series contender, not a bad turnout. They took 2 out of 3 from the Padres. I mean, and took 2 out of 3 in convincing fashion.
Yeah, I mean, besides the bad outing from Fulmer in the previous game, I mean, they could have swept that series, but I mean, a win's a win, a loss is a loss. So, and their record doesn't show it, but San Diego is a good team, and they are expected to be just as good as the Dodgers. Splitting the 4-game series.
Speaking of that, Elliott, let's go to the tape. Teams that are predicted to be good but aren't currently, because you did send the NL standings.
I did.
And currently the Dodgers are a 500 ball club.
And currently the San Diego Padres are a below 500 ball club.
Yes. And if you go to the AL East, the 4th and 5th place teams in the AL East are the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Which,
but you look at the AL East, I believe every single team is above 500.
That's correct. Although I think the Red Sox are exactly at 500.
Correct.
And
then, unlike the AL Central.
Right, which is just although
abysmal.
You can't say that you're surprised that the Twins are atop that division. Ultimately,
surprised that they are atop of the division. No, surprised the way that the division is broken up right now. Quite.
We'll get to how.
Well,
maybe we'll get to that if Ron can find.
Since we're talking about standings, though, there are only 2 divisions that aren't surprising right now, and I think you guys mentioned one, the AL Central. The Twins being at top of it, call it 25 games in, right? On average, about what we are right now. Twins on top. Okay, I can go with that. No.
And what's the other one that you're not surprised by? The AL West, the fact that the Angels are in 3rd place.
No, the NL East.
The 2 best players on the planet.
No, honestly, the NL East, with Atlanta being like 8 games over 500.
Yeah.
Not surprised at that one either.
In second.
Mets in second. No, I'm not surprised. But you look at the rest of the ones you're talking about here, and it's like, well, you know what? I have to say there may be 3, half of them, because who's terribly shocked that Tampa Bay is out to a hot start, or that's over 500. Nobody.
That's what
right?
they do.
Yeah, that's what they do. They do it on 1/3 of their rest of their division's payroll, except the Orioles, right? And they figure out a way to make it happen.
The Orioles are in 3rd.
Here's the thing, and I didn't want to jump into this yet. This is the thing I was reserved for later. Since we're talking about the Orioles, I want to talk about the Pirates too. I put those two almost in the same class, right?
Yeah, 100%.
By default, you can only suck for so long and be able to draft high in like literally every draft since like 2003. Like you can't even try hard enough to not field a good team in that span of time. And so it's this cycle, and it might be shorter. Why am I hearing an echo?
Focus.
You guys fix it. Inevitably, no matter how hard you try to suck, like you're going to have to, like when you draft that high for so long, unless you trade picks away every year, like there's no way you're not going to field at least a halfway decent team and catch a cycle where other teams are down. And so I think the Pirates are experiencing that right now. Obviously, Baltimore is. They've been able to draft high for how many years, guys? Like
it's been a long time.
Been a long time, right?
The last decade.
Like, and the Pirates hit this wave in the early, like I think it was last decade, where McCutcheon when he was a rookie, he was young.
2015 was the last time.
2015 since the tweet.
Right. And
since
so
the tweet, no matter what you do, you are going to lose. And then after that, it was downhill for the Pirates again.
Of course. But I mean, my point is that, hey, when you suck for this long, like you're going to draft like for 5, 6, 7 years really high, inevitably, like at some point in time, all these guys are going to have to graduate because you got to trade them eventually, right? For other stuff. So,
and you know who saw it coming, right? I'm talking specifically about the Pirates.
Nobody saw it from the Pirates. I guarantee you that.
Oh no, somebody did.
Who?
Somebody saw it coming.
No, this is not intriguing, but tell me.
Pete was right.
Oh, you're talking about your standings. No, the Pete was right standings were his jokes. But you know what?
The funny thing is,
no, I'm going to listen. No, Elliott, stop. Elliott, no, stop for a minute. Because you're right. I know where you're going. I'm lifting the curtain back on this Wizard of Oz shit. Those were his joke standings. But his joke standings actually are more accurate than his real standings.
But the funny thing is you came back and said, no, really. He's like, no, really.
No, I came back and said, he said, no, just kidding. Here's my real standings. Like, nope, using your first ones.
I mean,
so who was more right?
As the Twitterverse is concerned,
who was more right?
This guy.
But I said I was using your joke standing.
But this guy. I was making a joke and I was right. And the best part about it is not that the Pirates are in first. The best part about it is that the Cardinals had their worst April in 50 years.
50 years, exactly to the year. Exactly to the year. And their hot prospect who we were scared of. Now, is it because actually this is a serious question for you, Ron, and I know you probably still haven't watched a full game. No, I have actually. Go ahead.
But I guess the question is, are you guys still there? Because you're completely frozen on my screen.
Nope, still here.
Okay. Well, while you're frozen, I'll just keep talking. Your hot prospect, did he get shipped down to AAA because he wasn't producing and because the defense was completely unplayable, or did he get shipped down to AAA to save some service time?
Here's my one of many head theories, Pete.
Did we lose Ron?
No, Ron's still here.
No, I'm here. Elliott can hear me. Right, Elliott?
I can hear him. I can see him. Yep.
Okay. I don't like that you would have
Everything's frozen on my screen. All right, I'm logging out.
Well,
and coming back
you're coming in crystal clear, so we can hear everything. We can see everything. So
you can see me?
Yes.
I can't see you guys. Interesting.
Okay. Well, Elliott, we'll wait till Pete gets back on.
And I can't hear Ron.
Elliott, tell him to log off and log back in.
Log out and log back in.
Well, at this point, I'll just save my theory until he shows back up. But
he's going to save his theory until you log back in, Pete.
I love watching him on the second screen over here. just looks really confused. Oh, there he goes.
There he goes.
Now he dropped off. All right. I'll I'll save this until he's back on.
All right, while he's gone, which is probably going to be like 2 minutes.
What's the update on the NFL draft, by the way? So the Bears drafted a tackle, which
Bears draft an offensive tackle, a very talented, a very big,
he looked like
mobile offensive tackle.
He looked like a pretty mean machine. Pete, can you hear us now?
Yeah.
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Outstanding.
Can I put you back on? Are you okay? There you are. Okay. So I'll give you my head theory here, right? On what's happening. What's happening to the whole Jordan Walker thing.
Yeah.
When the Cardinals decided to bring him from camp to the big club, I really thought that, okay, well, that's a commitment, right? Like, you didn't have to do that. They already had like 4 outfielders at the major league level. They could have started, you know, O'Neill, Carlson, Nootbaar, Burleson, right? Burleson, maybe not, but he was there last year, and you know, he swings a pretty good bat against right-handed pitching, so they've got it, right? They're going to do this. They're going to keep him down there until they believe he's 100% ready. He didn't spend a ton of time in Memphis last year. That was kind of the surprise, but he played well enough in spring training. Well, it made the decision really hard for them to not bring him up. Like, they would have heard tons of shit from everybody for not bringing him, but he's 20 years old. I thought, man, once they brought him from spring training at 20 years old to the major league roster, that they were committed and they were gonna hang on to this to the end of the year. Really, I did. So a couple things are going on. He's got a high ground ball rate that, according to them, they want him to fix. You know, they want to get more balls elevated, so they want him to work on that. And they thought, well, you know what? He's going to get more routine, regular playing time, known playing time in AAA, because right now they've got 5 outfielders that the manager has to balance playing throughout the week. So that means, on average, each guy gets maybe 3 or 4 starts. Not an ideal situation. When you look at a guy like Tyler O'Neill, he tends to play better when he's playing regularly, right? If you look at his best months when he's playing, he's getting regular playing time when he's not hurt. So part of my head theory is that they're obviously going to have to deal one of these outfielders or 2 of them for pitching help. As I predicted, like the last 3 fucking years, that they're going to have to get pitching help, and they're going to need it again. Because once again, the core of this Cardinals team's problem right now is their pitching. It's dismal. It's terrible. We all saw it coming. Like, all the warning signs were there. How are you going to deal for pitching from any of these outfielders right now? You're not going to. Like O'Neill, benched, hurt last year. Carlson, benched, not a regular starter. Like, these guys aren't going to net shit right now, and they weren't going to in the offseason either. Your hope, too, is that if you saw some flaws in Jordan Walker's game, send him down to AAA, give your other outfielders regular starting time, and hope they can establish some kind of value that you can deal them for something. And at the same time, hoping Walker can fix this ground ball issue, which may or may not be a real thing. But I get why they're doing it. It's hard as a manager, I would think, to juggle 5 outfielders that could all start, but you're trying to find playing time for all of them. You know, difficult challenge. The optics of it, though, to people that don't think about it, look really bad. Right? You got this future all-star, you know, next generation player that you kept up for less than a month, and then you sent down in the middle of a series when you could have sent him down at any point in time, or in fact, not even brought him up, kept him down, and you didn't do that. So I think they sent him down to give the others playing time, so 1 or 2 of them could establish value to deal for help in the next 1 or 2 months. He'll be back up, and I think that's the way it's playing out. I don't think they're ever going to come out and say that that's the reason why, but I think that's the reason why.
Yeah, it's odd to bring up a young guy like that.
Shouldn't have brought him up at all. Honestly, shouldn't have brought him up at all.
I 100% agree, because it kind of coinciding with like what the Cubs are doing with a couple of guys, Torrens, our third catcher, Edwin Rios. They've barely played. I want to say that they don't even have 15 at bats.
Yeah,
it's like, why would you put these guys on the team if you're never going to use them? When you have guys like, Velasquez, who has come up a couple of times already and has done great, and you could probably use him and rotate him in at DH and get him at bats.
Yeah. Well, here's the other rub, Elliott.
It's a disservice to that young kid.
Yeah.
Having him sit on the bench and not get that experience.
Well, and that's ultimately why
he should be getting.
And that's why, that's the public reason why they say they sent him down, is to get regular playing time, which is always good, right? If somebody's struggling and if they've got 100%. Options to do that. But, they recall Taylor Motter, who's a journeyman. Nobody knew. Did you guys know about Taylor Motter before this year?
No.
You guys may not know.
Actually, honestly, I thought that it was a typo.
No.
I thought that they meant Ryan Mott.
No, unfortunately, Taylor Motter played good in spring for them, journeyman with an invite and all that kind of thing. And, got DFA'd like 3 days ago, cleared waivers, and they've signed him to a major league deal now. And he's up with the team while they send Jordan Walker down. So, man, lots of different ways I could take this conversation. But I will say this, that I've been through all of us have seen many things in life where everybody sees something, but the person in charge doesn't, or they just won't admit it. And you all be like, it's like talking to a kid, like, man, don't stick that fork in the toaster. Don't do that while it's still plugged in. And the little fucker does it anyway, because he thinks he knows better.
Marble up your nose.
And yeah, there you go. Marble up the nose. That might even be better. And they just do it anyway, right? You can all see it. Like the public can see it. And you're just in denial. And this is probably the worst case, Pete, out of all the ones we've been talking to, where the Cardinals obviously had obvious needs and they chose just to not address it. And
let me ask you something specific to Jordan Walker. Do you think that the reason that they called him up was to avoid the Chris Bryant accusations?
No, because
they don't want to be accused of service time manipulation, so they put him on the opening day roster.
No, I don't think that had anything to do with it. If you go back to Jordan Hicks, they didn't do it then either. They typically don't do that. They try to bring, I'm saying this out loud, I think they tried to bring the best team they could from spring training based on performance. And they did that with Jordan Hicks too when they brought him up. They didn't have to bring him up when they brought him up. Now, keep in mind, guys, I'm not talking about the Jordan Hicks right now. I'm talking about the Jordan Hicks like in 2018. Okay?
Yeah, when he was scary as hell.
Yeah. And he was 20. You remember, he was young too. And they didn't do that. So they've not had a track record for manipulating service time. They really haven't. So I don't think this is what it was. I think what they hoped for, crossed their fingers, which they do a lot, is that Jordan Walker would just automatically be the next Albert Pujols as soon as they brought him up. And when he wasn't, they realized that we didn't take care of pitching in the offseason, and we're going to have to trade for somebody. And we don't have many moves to make, so we got to send this rookie back down to AAA to work on something when he could have worked on it in the major leagues, I believe. What the fuck do I know? But so we're going to have to play these other 4 outfielders, hope that 1 or 2 of them reestablish some kind of trade value so we can deal for that Rich Hill. Or we can deal for somebody else that we're going to need in July. No, you guys laugh, but that's fucking truth. I believe that's honestly what's happening.
I
agree with you. That's what's so funny about it.
Yeah. I mean, Pete, Elliott, both of you guys, I called this, last year before?
Yeah, I know.
This offseason? Like, they don't have enough pitching. Their pitching's fragile. It's a house of cards. And guess what's happened? Once again, the pitching sucks. And it spreads throughout the whole team. They're playing terrible. No facet of their game is worth watching. I said it on Twitter many times. I'm like, okay, I have a few hours tonight that I can kill because I don't have Little League baseball or anything, and I get into it. And I'm like, I'm not spending what few hours or minutes I have to spare in a day to watch this shit. Not doing it.
So instead, you switch over and watch St. Louis City play soccer.
it's fun to watch, right? Are you going to watch something that's, you got option A, boring as shit, option B, entertaining? What are you going to spend your time doing? You're going to watch the entertaining thing.
Yeah, don't disagree with that.
You're going to watch the third rerun of Law and Order, or are you going to watch Ted Lasso? Like, it's a pretty easy decision.
The bike scene was great.
You did like that? That was good. The episode this week?
Yes.
Have you watched the new one?
I did.
Pete, did you watch it?
Of course.
Tying dicks to strings was maybe the funniest concept or shit I've seen in a long time. Anyway, the Cardinals are a fucking mess, and they deserve all the ire they get from not only their own fans, but they deserve all the laughter that they get from all opposing fans. And there's not a Cardinal fan that I know of that's going to disagree with any notion or sentiment that's shelled out at them from Brewers fans or Cub fans or anything. Right now, they've done this to themselves. They really have. It's not like they assembled a team that all of us thought you guys would be quaking in your boots in the offseason, right? They signed a catcher, and then they stopped. But that's Mo's thing. Even when he acquired Arenado, even when he acquired Goldschmidt, Ozuna. Go back, guys. Go back in time. How many laps around a track make a mile, Pete? Typically in a
4.
Yeah. Mo likes to go 3, and then he fucking stops.
Well, because he feels confident and
comfortable. Yeah, and he doesn't want things to be, complicated. The 3 C's.
And the surprise, and look, really, ultimately, the surprising thing about this is that this is like the worst case scenario, right? This is you didn't expect the pitching to be good.
Not this bad, though.
No.
Right, but it's compounded by the fact that the offense is just not responding and is not picking up the slack the way that they have the last several years.
Especially with Goldie, who is a traditionally slow starter, has been playing great.
Yeah, he's been playing well, but Arenado is, from what I've seen and what I've read, Arenado's looked lost.
He looks really bad right now. Yep.
Nobody else on the team really is stepping up. Your big free agent signing only has 2 home runs. Meanwhile, the Cubs defense first catcher has 5. Just saying.
Yanni Bench.
That's right.
Well, it's
I mean, look, I'd be lying if I didn't say that that I was enjoying this. But I really love this. I know they're going to turn it around. They're not going to finish last in the division. The Reds can't sustain this string of success for this long. They're eventually going to crater out.
You mean the Pirates?
No, I mean the Reds.
Well, the Reds
being ahead of the Cardinals is not going to last.
But they're technically tied. They're just separated by percentage points.
Yeah, I know, but we all know that that's not going to last. It's only a matter of time. But still, every day that I see the Cards at the bottom of the table, it's the birds sing more sweetly, the sun's brighter. It almost feels like it's a little bit warmer outside, as evidenced by the fact that today it was almost 70 degrees. I think that was largely connected to the fact that the Cardinals suck right now. So, happy days here in the Chicagoland area.
Well, Pete, if you want to know honestly how I think a lot of us fans, as frustrated as it is to read the standings and box scores and everything else, you almost feel like that parent where you're like, goddamn told you. If you keep doing that, you're going to get hurt. We've all been there, right? Like, keep jumping on the bed. One of you is going to fall off and hit your head on the end table or something and get a black eye. And lo and behold, that's kind of what the feeling is right now. If I could sum it up, it's like, all right, front office, the pitching sucks. Like, we all see it. I don't know what how you're going to try to spin this, but you're gonna get hurt. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you got hurt. Well, fuck. How many warnings did you need from your parent?
It's funny because while I love the Pete was right hashtag, we could really start a Ron was right hashtag, and we could backdate it to about 3 years ago.
Oh man, but I didn't think it would end up like this, Pete. I thought that organization at some point in time like would step in and be like, all right, screw this. We're gonna blow elements up of this team, not the core, but we're gonna strip some things down and correct it, because we've seen them do it in the past. They're just not doing it right now, which is all the more baffling. And I've tried to, like go along with the Bally Sports exit ramp where, oh shit, this is why they didn't spend any more money. This is the problem. But it's really hard to justify when you look at some arms that were available that wouldn't have been a terrible burden to the team. To take no steps at all, like to literally shut down after filling one need when you knew you had a lot more. Man, I don't know. I look at these guys and I'm like, yeah, smartest dudes in the office. You know so much more than us. Well, you've lost that credibility at this point because we all saw it, like everybody. And we've seen it for years that you've had a deficiency and you've refused to correct it. Heard your reasons. Heard John Mozeliak's little, dugout interview a few days ago that said asking for fans to be patient. Like, motherfucker, we've been patient for a long time. We've all seen the wart. We've all called it out, and you still do nothing about it. And so you're going to try to deal one more time for a couple veteran end of their career arms that, yeah, maybe going to get an adrenaline a rush or two to get you through the end of the year. But guess what? If you do nothing else, you're bounced. You know what? This time around, guys, maybe they shouldn't do anything. Maybe it should be stripped down as much as it can. If I was Nolan Arenado, I would be filing a fucking grievance against the team right now because I don't know what he was told, but
he had an option. He had an opportunity to opt out.
I know. All of us can point and be like, "Hey, man, dumbass, your fault." But man, that's got to feel terrible. It really does. And his woes right now are probably more related to the team's performance. You got a guy like that will try to do too much. He'll try to carry the whole damn thing by himself, overextend himself, extend his zone, all the stuff we hear about all the time. And I don't know. I don't know any better right now, so I got to chalk it up to that. Like, the team sucks right now, and he's trying to do everything he can to scratch out whatever he can. And that's usually when players do that, it doesn't work.
And obviously, and this would be the frustrating thing for me if I was a Cardinals fan, and we've dealt with it all the time as Cubs fans. Obviously, you have a very limited window with your two potential future Hall of Famers.
Right.
They're getting older, right? And it's only a matter of time before the production starts to decline, and now they're no longer an asset. They start to become a liability.
Right.
And they've done nothing with that.
It's one of the 3 or 4 rubs the Cardinals fans have. Like, this is one of the things that, you're right, Pete. Like, any team, like, take the Cardinals out of it for a minute. Any team that had Paul Goldschmidt at first, Nolan Arenado at second, you put Contreras behind the plate, like, you would think that team has a plan and is taking advantage of some kind of window where these guys are still able to do it. And they're not. And it's, I feel really bad for those guys that committed to this organization, and this is what the organization has done in response. So, yeah, I and many others like me are just disappointed that this is a window that they just don't seem motivated to take advantage of.
Yeah, because right now you guys have at least a decent offense that, if supported by a good pitching staff and a good bullpen, should be able to win enough games to be competitive for the NL Central, for a wild card to make the playoffs at the minimum. I mean, that's why you spent the money and you went out and you extended Paul Goldschmidt, that you went and you got Nolan Arenado, that you brought up these guys and you believed in them in your outfield. But to not go out and get that supporting staff, it's just it's a kick in the balls to the fans, and it's a kick in the balls to the team, because you're saying we want to put enough talent on the field to put butts in the seats, but we're not committed enough to put money into the pitching staff to give you guys all the tools to do well and to succeed and to make it to the playoffs and play into October.
Well, a kick on the balls might be what they need, and it's certainly what I think they deserve. So
let's talk about happier subjects.
Please.
Elliott, Dansby Swanson hit his first home run today. Trey Mancini seems to be heating up.
He seems to be getting it together. He does.
The Cubs pitching has been pretty darn good.
The Cubs pitching is one of the best in the National League.
I know. I mean, all things considered, Patrick Wisdom looks like 2021 Patrick Wisdom, not 2022 Patrick Wisdom. I mean, it's, the Cardinals are in last
and
place.
Certainly
it's
not
a pretty good time to
and
be a
certainly
Cubs fan.
not 2018 Patrick Wisdom or the 2-time DFA'd Patrick Wisdom.
Correct. You're right. Of the Cardinals.
And 2 other teams after that.
And he's playing really great defensive baseball.
Yeah.
He was on a really great hot streak. He's kind of cooled down a little bit, but looking at his history, Patrick Wisdom is a roller coaster. He gets hot, he gets a little cool, but the good thing is that he really has cut down on those strikeouts. He is he's taking some more walks than he typically has in his career.
Guys like him, Elliott, I would point to other players that you can proxy off of that. Maybe a Josh Donaldson. I'm not saying they're equal, but Josh Donaldson was a late bloomer, right? A couple
100%.
other guys too. So he could have figured something out, and maybe he'll stick, in MLB and be a pretty good player. Maybe Todd Zeal in his later years, right? Where valuable in certain ways and a role, right?
And I'll tell you though, the one thing that we've seen that does seem to be different with him, at least in 2021 and so far this year, is that he actually can kind of play defense. Like that's not something that Josh Donaldson was particularly known for.
No.
And look, the guy who the stat heads would love now, who everybody hated back in the day, was Adam Dunn. Right? Like they would adore him now. He had no defensive place on the field.
Which young baseball fans love, right? They love that. Right. They love, he doesn't hit a ground ball. He either strikes out, flies out, pops out, or hits a home run. Like that's the elixir, man. That's the young generation's ideal baseball player. What's left of baseball fans anyway.
Yeah. And I think one of the most fascinating and exciting things that we are hopefully witnessing this year is the rising star at second base in Nico Horner. I mean, we watched it last year, but he is continuing on a little bit of that tear, and the kid hits liners and balls where people aren't. He's
not hitting a ton of home runs. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it.
Shut up.
Shut up.
He is aggressive on the bases. He is turning what you would normally think a single is going to be, and he's turning it into doubles. I think he's still the league leader in steals right now.
No, I think he's in second, but he's
in second now.
He was tied for first for a while.
I mean, it's
boring. What's his exit velocity? What's his launch angle?
The guy's getting on base at the top of the lineup, and then you got Dansby Swanson, who is moving him over at least, and then you've got your second, your 3, 4, and 5 hitters getting him on base. I mean, I don't know. There's some stat that I saw that says that the Cubs have more first inning runs than I think most teams in MLB. Like they are scoring right off the bat and getting the league right away.
So are we talking about switching the hashtag around to Ron was right? Like you guys were going to enjoy this roster? Is that what I'm ultimately?
Yes.
Is that what we're boiling this down to, guys?
That's what we're boiling it down to.
You guys sound completely different 4 weeks ago.
Ron and Pete were right. You know, you brought up Nico Horner, and I think it's an interesting conversation, Elliott, because he's almost the exact opposite of what the Cardinals are going through right now with Jordan Walker, right? The Cubs called Nico Horner up out of desperation. They had so many injuries that year, if you'll remember. They had to bring him up. They did not want to bring him up. No. Remember, this guy has not spent a single day at AAA.
No.
And he struggled a little bit. I mean, he showed flashes, but he struggled a little bit. And they have never been in a position where, and I'll admit it, I was one who was advocating, like, please give this guy some development time. Do not screw him up.
You wanted him back. Yes.
Like they did with Jerome Walton and Corey Patterson. And let's just go down the list of failed Cubs draft picks who got called up too early. And that was my fear, was that they were going to screw him up, that he wasn't going to get the time that he needed to develop into the player that he did. And I think all the credit goes to him for being able to continue his development and become the player that he is now at the major league level while in the spotlight. And last couple of years at a premium position. You know, it's not like he was getting better out in left field, because he was too ham-handed to play second base and there was nowhere else to put him. He was playing at a position where everybody was scrutinizing his defense. And while he figured it out at the plate, he still delivered Gold Glove caliber defense. I mean, my hat is off to the dude.
Yeah.
Incredible. And his ability to focus, like, I think the best example of it is the fact that he could have continued to be a member of the compound, right? Ian Happ has leveraged that clearly into millions of dollars in endorsements and everything. And it really is, it's the Ian Happ show with special guests.
Yeah.
But you'll recall Nico Horner was one of the original four who was on that, and he stepped away. And it's clear that the reason that he stepped away is because he determined he didn't need that distraction. And I think ultimately it's going to pay off for him. And I'll say it now, and Ron, you can go ahead and flag the tape and you can play it for me later. Over the length of their careers, Nico Horner is going to be a more valuable player to the Cubs than Ian Happ is.
Oh, I would totally agree with that. And that's one thing that David Ross has said, is that for as young of a guy that Nico Horner is, that he has noticed his preparation is bar none some of the best that he's witnessed in baseball and on the team. He said, he compared him to Dansby Swanson, where these two guys they're the first ones there, they're the last ones on the field, they're honing their craft constantly. So, and I think it's fantastic, and I'm just glad I get to witness him right now in his prime, and with this Cubs team kind of all coming up together and meshing together the way that they are.
Which of course means that, it's all about to fall apart because we're Cubs fans. And so we have to come to expect that. So is Ron going to come back and join us, or?
Well, no, I've been here. I just got bored.
There he is.
I just got bored.
Kind of on your segue of everything falling apart, we look to the south side.
Oh,
where
wow.
It is.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh,
apart. Shit, man. I screwed up on this. Elliott, keep talking. I'll find it.
So we don't talk about the White Sox quite often because they're usually irrelevant to the North Siders. Fuck you, White Sox. I'm sorry.
It's funny to have White Sox fans because they assume that we hate them as much as they hate us.
And I don't. I went to more Sox games last year than I went to Cubs games because I enjoy their ballpark. I enjoy their brand of baseball that they play down there on the South Side.
Played. Past tense. Played.
And with not a whole lot of changes to that team besides bringing in the cancer that is Mike Clevenger, that team does not look like they want to play together at all. Besides maybe a few of them, I mean, I don't know if it's the combination of, the Tony La Russa thing and then changing coaches and then bringing in a couple of guys that just don't mesh well with the team and make a good clubhouse. On paper, this team looked like they were going to vie for the AL Central. There was a lot of high expectations for this team, and the fact that they are 11 or 12 games below 500 and we are still in the first month of baseball is just not where the fans thought this was going to be at all. It's not where I thought they would be at all.
Oh, no.
And I was actually excited to have a good White Sox team and a good Cubs team going into this summer, because it just makes baseball in the city that much more fun when both teams are doing well.
All right. I've got it queued up. You guys are making my dick soft, so I'm going to play it.
Okay, well, wait, before you play it.
So this morning,
just real quick, to put it in context and to agree with you, Elliott. One, I have an extraordinary number of White Sox fans who work at my school.
Okay.
And they sound like Cardinals fans right now. They stick their heads in.
Oh, this guy does. This guy does.
And I'll say, what do you think? And they're like, they got to blow this shit up. I've heard that so many times in the last week. They just got to blow that shit up. And I honestly can't tell if they're talking about Cardinals fans.
All right,
or
can
White
I play
Sox
this
fans.
now?
But no, you can't play it, because I'm just going to give us a little segue. It is the anniversary. I'm not going to play the whole cue, but still, it's the anniversary. And so it seems appropriate for us to be playing it right now.
I'll tell you one fucking thing. I hope we get fucking hotter than shit just to stuff it up them 3,000 fucking people that show up every fucking day.
All right, Ron, go ahead.
Can I play it now?
Since your dick's soft, go ahead and hit play.
to kind of, if anybody hasn't heard this.
Okay, well, you're going to make it softer. Go ahead.
There was a White Sox fan that called in to ESPN 1000 today. And normally when you get people that call into radio stations, it's incoherent, it's babble, and you get the radio heads.
It's not well thought out, is what you're saying, right? It's not well thought out.
Right. This was amazing, and I thought it was the greatest thing, and he hit it on the head.
Yeah, and Pete walked away. I'm going to wait till he comes back. I'm going to make him listen. He's not listening to this.
And when I first saw this, there was video of it, and it was on Waddle and Sylvie this morning, and they were just from my standpoint, it just looked like those guys were in awe of the argument that this fan was making.
Well, typically when an emotional fan calls in, I've done it before too. And, back when I was in my 20s, I did it all the time. I called into the score quite often. And, it was a hot take. And this guy, I think these Waddle and Sylvie were expecting a hot take that they could poke holes in.
No.
And I think listening to this guy, they couldn't. So this is rather long. So guys, be patient. But I'll play it now.
Chicago White Sox fan for nearly 40 years. I say that with the very express intent of sharing my deep and undying love for this team. And my call is rooted in heartbreak, not anger. Don't get me wrong. I'm angry, but it is a byproduct of a dysfunctional, abusive relationship with the front office and the ownership of the Chicago White Sox. I also want to say I have defended this rebuild. I liked what the team did with the trades. I defended Yasmani in Dallas. I didn't understand the La Russa hire, but I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I forgave the free agents they let go. I was befuddled by the Benintendi and Clevenger signings, but you know what? I said, I'm going to give them one last shot. And when they canceled Sox Fest, like the cowards they are, I knew something was up. But now we know. Obviously, the experiment is over. The vast majority of the prospects have been busts. The product on the field is pathetic. We have exactly two players of excellence on this roster, Dylan Cease and Tim Anderson. Everyone else is nowhere near the kind of player they need to be to make this a winning team. You'd think that would be enough to wake this organization up. But yesterday, Kenny Williams had the gall to say that he's not in a good place right now, and accountability is not an issue. You're right, he's not in a good place. He's not in a job he should have. Think about all the promises that Rick Hahn made, mired in mediocrity, that he bragged about Romy Gonzalez in spring training, and I'll trade him if I get the right price. Think about the things Grifol said, come to the park, we're going to kick everyone's butt. They must have been talking about the fans, not the other teams. The entire lineup is batting under 220. The best hitter on the team is Jake Berger. We're a AAA team. Our right fielders are hitting 180 with a weighted run created plus of 28. I don't even need to tell you about the pitching staff. Katz has got to go. Moncada, TA, Eloy, Yaz, Joe Kelly. It's week 4. They've all already been hurt. Tens of millions of dollars on replacement level players while stars go elsewhere. We're 11 games under 500. The Bears needed 6 months to get 11 games under 500. We needed 3 weeks. In the 15 years of Rick Hahn, we have been a constant experiment that has never panned out. In the 25 years of Kenny Williams, we had exactly 1 season of excellence with a perfect storm of players that has not once come even close to being the same. I don't want to hear about the strength of schedule in April. With the money we've spent, the players we have playing 500 ball should be underachieving, not 11 games under 500. We keep going after players that Rick Hahn liked 5 years ago. Lance Lynn, over the hill. Yaz, over the hill. Benintendi, he wanted him in the draft 6 years ago. He's got a .1 WAR. Clevenger isn't just a clubhouse cancer and a disgusting human being. He's a horrendous pitcher. Joe Kelly has been useless. We signed Vince Velasquez. Give me a break. John Jay, Yonder Alonso. Between them, that's $200 million on a bunch of black holes and an ERA of 240. The entire organization is poisoned. The entire way that they go about their business is a failure. Firing Rick isn't enough. Firing Kenny isn't enough. If Chris Guest gets promoted and we have to sit through another 15-year retool rebuild, you're just going to hear from me again in 2038. I don't care if we go on a torrid winning streak in May and June and somehow get back to 500 ball, and then we scooch our way into the postseason and the wild card, only to get bounced right away by a team that's actually good. We have no depth in our organization. 1 injury and we are done. This process isn't working. Our farm system has been in the bottom 10 for 45 years, aside from the 1 frame of time when they traded all our talent away and graduated them all right up, and then we were the worst again. There is one solution. In his final years, Jerry Reinsdorf, who, by the way, wouldn't even have the reputation he has if he hadn't have lucked upon Michael Jordan at 3 in 1984, has the courage to get rid of the yes men around him and fire everyone. He bought into the Chicago Bulls and the White Sox for $20 million. He's worth $2 billion now. He needs to use a fraction of that money he made on the backs of Chicago's blue-collar baseball fans and pay for a front office to come and rebuild everything. Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams cannot be trusted to rebuild this team again. They need to retire and go off into the sunset and play golf with the millions of dollars they made on their cushy paychecks for a job that they had a longer leash for than any executive in the history of the modern era of baseball. Let someone qualified come in and run this team. At this point, we would need a historic turnaround to even be mildly relevant. Everyone said the AL Central was weak, and it might be in comparison to others, but the Sox aren't better than the Guardians or the Twins. We're not even better than the Royals. And the fact that we're only incrementally better than the Tigers is exactly the kind of indictment on this organization that we need. The lack of success that this roster has is a referendum on what we've already seen in 2006, 2007, 2011, 2013, 2015, and 16, and the excruciating last 7 years that only led to this. I mean, Stoney is more worried about Lance Lynn eating a salad than the entire organization not knowing how to teach Major League prospects how to hit a baseball.
All right, Verno.
Bruno, you get an A+ purely on presentation.
I mean, like that was
presentation. You
Will of the year, right
that's
there.
Will Ferrell debating James Carville and just knocking him out with one.
Okay.
Pete, go ahead.
That was pretty good.
You couldn't argue with just about anything that guy said, which is why radio host sat there for 7 minutes
and let him go
because he was not wrong about anything.
Anything.
I just love the button of, and Stoney's worried about Lance Lynn eating a salad.
And people were upset saying that Stoney was fat shaming Lance Lynn.
Right. Imagine if Hawk Harrelson was still announcing for this team.
Oh God. Oh, he'd kill himself. All right. We're clearly running up on time.
Yeah.
Quickly. Impressions of the Bears basically doing a gentleman's trade and picking up next year's 4th round pick to trade back so that they could not pick a guy that they weren't going to pick anyway.
Well, sure. Anyway, I can tell you that so City drew a draw on Saturday. Little disappointing, but they are 6-2-1 as a new franchise. They are at near the top of the standings. I think they're third now in points, but they are in the Cup now, the U.S. Cup, and they won their first game. They're heading up to Chicago Fire here this week to take them on, and their major MLS team will be taking on Fire here. I think in a few weeks. So, yeah, City be wearing that jersey on Saturday.
Look at that. Tuesday, May 9th.
Mm-hmm.
They're set to play. And that's here?
That's in Chicago, I think. Yep.
Elliott, we should go.
Tuesday, May 9th. I will be on my way back from South Carolina.
Wait, what are you going to South Carolina for?
Camping. I'm going to go to the mountains.
Just by yourself?
No, I'm going with the family and some friends. So we've got a camper. We're gonna go spend a couple of days.
Likes to hike
in the mountains.
Yeah.
So
fight bears.
Try to avoid cocaine bear, and spend some quality time. Yeah.
Well, so you won't be back on the 9th.
I believe is that Tuesday?
He's making shit up right now. He's trying to avoid it. He's trying to avoid it. Look,
I will be driving back on Tuesday the 9th. We leave Wednesday.
So you won't be there. You won't be there is the point.
I
May
think
13th, the boy has a game. They've got a 12 o'clock start time, but the boy has a game on the 13th.
No, Pete, I think you threw out that date, and Elliott looked down. He's like, honey, he's texting her right now. He's like, I think we should extend this trip one day so I don't have to go to this fucking soccer game. I think that's what he was doing.
You know what? Maybe I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to see what I can do to make a live appearance. I'll be the first member of the Team of Rivals podcast to be at a St. Louis City.
No,
game.
I don't want
like
no. I don't want that.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be. And I'm going to show up in a Fire jersey too.
But here's the thing. This cup that's going on right now in the U.S., I don't think it's like... First of all, it surprised me on Tuesday. It wasn't their normal starter, so I'm not sure what this cup is. This is a new thing for me. So I don't think it's the like there were some players from the MLS roster, but not all were playing, if that makes sense. So it's a little weird. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, Pete, you were talking. I rudely interjected that. You were talking about the Bears. Yes, they drafted they drafted a tackle, which is not the sexiest.
Which everybody knew they were going to do.
Yep. And they probably need, right? Yep. So,
and a gentleman's trade. I'm sure people are disappointed by the return, but I mean, it was a relationship trade, right? Ian Cunningham used to be with the Eagles. The Bears obviously weren't going to draft Jalen Carter anyway. So you go ahead, you pick up a 4th round pick next year, and you watch. They're going to package that with something, and they're going to move up in the draft tomorrow.
Well, and if not then, Pete, it's going to be next year where all of a sudden the Bears have 2 first-round draft picks after they've acquired all this talent this year. And so don't
2 first round, 2 first rounds, 2 second rounds.
I know.
Year.
If you couldn't bring out your pom-poms this year, you were disappointed. just wait till next year. But yes, getting the first pick of the draft, yeah, it would have been like every Bears fan's like me. I give up on them in October. Yeah, I would have been tuned into that. So first pick would have been cool, but I think they did the right thing.
Yeah, they needed to address something in the trenches. It was either offensive line or defensive line.
Mm-hmm. Which is never like the sexiest thing.
No, of course not. Sorry, I interrupted there, Elliot. What were you going to say?
No, Ron and I were discussing when you were restarting the computer, and I actually said the same thing. I said it's not the sexiest pick. I said, but it's something that the Bears needed. This guy is an athlete, but I did say that I said I had a feeling that the Bears were gonna draft Bijan, the running back, but since he went right before that, I think that the Eagles kind of knew that, hey, maybe we can just move up one to get Jalen Carter, and the Bears were like, well, that's, since Bijan's gone, we'll go ahead and trade, get a little bit more collateral, and then we'll get our offensive tackle.
Well, you know what?
Was,
my
number 2 on their list.
My ill-advised theory on running backs is like, I look at Emmitt Smith, Hall of Fame running back, and certainly he was great, right? Would he have been a Hall of Fame running back if not for that Dallas line that he had for years?
Offensive line?
No, he wouldn't have been. He would have faded away into obscurity if Dallas wouldn't have been what they were.
That's why I always think Barry Sanders was the better running back, because he really didn't have an offensive line.
He didn't have shit. Yeah. Go ahead, Pete.
Careful, because the Bears had an excellent offensive line in the 80s, and Walter Payton was still an incredible running back.
He was still the best running back ever. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, strictly I think all around, I agree. All around, blocking, receiving, running, Walter Payton without a doubt. But strictly with carrying the rock and creating something out of nothing, it's Barry Sanders by a mile.
No doubt, absolutely. And I remember talking to I was at a wedding. It must have been like 2009. I actually ran into the defensive coordinator of the Dolphins.
Oh, okay.
Who was, or maybe it was Colt. It was the Colts. He was with the Colts in 1985 when they played the Bears. And he said that they had no answer for Peyton. None. It might have been before 85, but it was in the early 80s. He was a defensive coordinator. And he said that one thing they didn't have an answer for was Peyton. Like, they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't neutralize him. They had all kinds of plans. Nothing worked. He later was, I'm getting my story straight now because I remember the conversation with this older guy. He was defensive coordinator for the Colts. Then he ended up being defensive coordinator for the Dolphins in 85. The only game the Bears lost that year.
Yeah.
On my birthday.
So it's your fault.
No, it's that old fucker's fault. He figured it out.
You know what? You should listen to Adam Carolla had Mike Singletary on his podcast last week. You should listen to that when he talks about going into that game and how the very next day they recorded the Super Bowl shuffle.
That's hilarious.
No, that is true.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good one.
Okay.
That's awesome.
All right, Pete. We've run over time here, but yes, Cardinals suck. You've been right about your fake standings. I've been mostly right about my predictions, although I didn't think it would be this horrendous. So I haven't been really right. I
think it's only a matter of time before the Brewers collapse. They're down two aces, and now they're center fielder.
Well, one of them's back, but he was only out. He was only out for a couple starts.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how healthy he stays.
Anyway,
that's true.
Anyway. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to comment and subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends to do the same. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. And occasionally we stream live on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts, including the Derek King Sports Show. That's a Winner podcast. Talking Sports in the Bleachers with Don Glenn. 2 for 3 with Moose Michaels. XFL, STL, whatever its title actually is now, because it may have changed, I think Ron said. You can find Elliott on Twitter at Elliott.
TOR_Elliott.
Thank you. You can find Ron at
TRR_Ron75.
And who knows, maybe on Tuesday, May 9th, you'll be able to find Pete at the St. Louis City Chicago Fire game.
Ooh.
Get in touch with us at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com or on any social media channel at Team of Rivals Pod. Gentlemen, it's been fun. Let's just all remember the most important takeaway from tonight's show, right? I mean, we talked about the draft. We talked about St. Louis City qualifying for the U.S. Cup. We talked about the Cubs' surprising success. We had comments from the Peanut Gallery about Lionel Messi scoring his 800th goal and about the excellence of...
He scored 800 goals.
The topic of the show. Yeah, he scored 800 goals in his career. But ultimately, let's all take away. And I'm not just talking to the four of us. I'm not just talking to our listeners. I'm talking to the whole world. Let's just remember. Hashtag Pete was right.
Hashtag fake Pete was right. But with that said, thank you for taking us out, buddy. We love you all so much. We will talk to you, I think, next week. I think we'll keep this up. Maybe not live. I might get bored with it in a week or so. But until then,
we'll be live.
We love you all so much. Bye-bye, everyone.